Ah, there we go. Okay, hello guys, and welcome to SimRacingOnline here from the Deutschlandring. This is round 3 of the F1 Classic Series. Apologies for the technical issues that delayed the commentary. I'm really sorry about that, and thank you so much for Andrew Williams for pointing that out. I believed all this while that I was commentating because I was speaking to myself. Hello guys, and welcome to SimRacingOnline. Sorry about that. I forgot to. Okay, whatever the case, yeah, I was very much just talking to myself, and I'm sorry about that. But meanwhile, we are going side by side for the lead. Yucca Drug and Louis Defour going side by side towards turn 1 there, or the first, well, not really turn 1. There are no official corner names, of course, but the first long corner of the lap. Thank you so much to Andrew Williams for pointing out that there wasn't any sound. I would never have realised otherwise. Also, hello to Matthew Hendy and MK3424, who are joining us as well. And again, really sorry for the technical issues. To run you through the order, it's Yucca Drug at the front. He qualified on pole position as well with a very, very nice lap. Louis Defour is in second position, followed by Matteo Santini third. Then Tim Muttram in fourth position after a disappointing qualifying position for our championship leader. Just to check, guys, can you hear me on the stream? I believe you can, but can you please confirm that? Also, Fabrizio Ferrante in 5th position, followed by Phil Brown in 6th. Steph Williams is 7th, followed by John Van der Geest 8th, Steen Toodle 9th, Lauren Lunt is 10th, Max Shepard is 11th, and unfortunately we lost Tony Talviti on the opening lap of the race after an incident. MK3424 says, looks like a fun track, at least it's not as hard as the Sachsenring. Definitely does look like a fun track, although definitely suits some drivers more than others. Long layouts like this. Andrew Williams says yes, he can hear me. Thank you very much, Andrew, and really sorry about the technical issues. But whatever the case, we continue on our way, and the gap for the lead is now out to a second for the first time in the race, but Drug did go wide there. Drug running wide, and Defour is immediately back on his tail again, less than 0.3 of a second behind him. And this is a proper fight for the lead. Drug can't afford to make too many mistakes like that. Meanwhile, Max Shepard is back in the pit, so issues for Shepard in the Eagle there. He was telling me before this race that he was really not looking forward to it, and he doesn't like long circuits such as this one. But whatever the case, Drug still leading from Defour. And the difficulty that Defour has here is that to overtake 1960s F1 cars tend to require heavy braking zones, and there aren't really any heavy braking zones on the track. Look at Matteo Santini going alongside Louis Defour now for second position and actually making the move stick, and Defour needs to tuck back into the slipstream there. Santini putting in a fantastic lap. It was temporarily the fastest lap of the race until Tim Muttram crossed the line, so let's see what Muttram can do about catching up to these guys. Louis Defour back in the slipstream of Matteo Santini, who powered his way through into second position there. Possibly a slight mistake from Defour. And oh, they're going side by side again on the exit of the crest there, with Defour trying to go all the way around the outside of Santini. That's not going to work there, but what can he do on the acceleration? He tucks right back in behind Santini again. He would have been trying to put the power down as early as possible there, just to get the wheels spinning and get the car pointed in the right direction, as he aimed himself at the rear end of Santini's car. Ooh, running slightly wide there over the grass on the exit. But whatever the case, through the middle of the circuit, we're in the second sector now. Incidentally, I should point out that pole position and fastest lap are both worth points. Santini. Was that Santini going wide, or was that Defour getting sideways? I only caught that out of the corner of my eye. Whatever the case, sorry, yeah, pole position is worth a point, fastest lap is worth a point. So Yucca Drug would have scored a point for pole position here. And also Fastest lap so far is Tim Muttram as Santini goes into the wall. Santini lost control of the car. He's hit the wall. De4 is back up into second position. Is there damage for Matteo Santini? Let's look on board his car as he comes back at Lewis De4. Doesn't look like any damage, but that was a pretty hefty whack into the wall there as he just misjudged the corner. And he's got Tim Muttram right in his tail as well, so he needs to be careful here as he heads up through the hairpins in the final sector of the course. And that was a big, hairy moment there from Matteo Santini. Continues on his way though. And that means that De4 has swapped back into second position. Of course, he lost at the start of this lap after Santini powered his way through on the straight, and he will be rubbing his hands in glee seeing Santini making that error. Tim Muttram as well, it's been a slightly disappointing performance from him so far. With all due respect to Tim, he's a spectacular driver to watch. I love his driving style. Yet, not the quickest driver, maybe the Honda struggling a bit here. It seems that the Coopers have the advantage in a straight line. Meanwhile, we're back onto the section of the course where Santini slipstreamed his way past De4 a lap ago. Can he repeat the feat? Meanwhile, Yucca Drug sets the first lap of the race. He's on to full points as it stands, as Santini attempts to go around the outside of Lewis De4, and that might well work. In fact, it does work. So Matteo Santini slipstreams and powers his way past Lewis De4, goes back up into second position. Now he just needs to make sure he doesn't make another mistake like the mistake he made last time around, and continue to hold De4 off, although De4 is coming back at him on the outside here, and Lewis De4 will have to run it on the lesser used part of the circuit. Has to back out of that one. Matteo Santini leading the race. MK32424 sorry, saying good thing that the damage is moderate here. Indeed, Santini would be in a much worse shape if it wasn't after that that clout of the fence. Oh, he's going to clout the fence again. No, that's De4. De4 gets very, very squirrely there and rubs up against the barrier. If that was real life, the fence would have deformed and dragged him off the road, but whatever the case, gets away with it very, very lightly in comparison to what it could have been, and he will feel very lucky with that one, and I doubt there'll be any damage at all. Let's just double check that by running on board with Lewis De4. Indeed, no damage, so gets away with that and continues in third position. Tim Muttram dropping a little way back actually in all of that. Up the hill we go, and it's Lotus, Cooper, Honda into the braking zone. Muttram taking a very different line from De4 there and losing several tenths of a second. It looks as if he just misjudged the entrance to the corner. De4 shallow in, that's not the best line through the hairpin, but gets it turned on the exit. The difficulty with a long course like this is that, of course, you can do the same amount of practice as you can at a different track, sorry, but you see each corner fewer times because it's such a long track, and that means that extra practice is required here. It's definitely much, much harder than for example, a modern shorter circuit of a minute or 2 minutes. But no, this 3 minute and 10 second Deutschlandring providing a fantastic challenge for the drivers. To be honest, I'd love to be doing it. In terms of the Drivers' Championship so far, I should remind you that Tim Muttram is leading it on 16 points after winning our opening round at Riverside. So Tim Muttram top of the championship so far, followed by Matteo Santini, 5 points back in second place. Then Yucca Drug in third place, followed by Phil Brown, John Van der Geest, Fabrizio Ferrante, Max Shepard, Steen Tudel, Jens Roos, and Steph Williams. Those are the top 10 in the championship, of course. The top 8 of those, of course, point scorers so far. Meanwhile, Yuka Drug set the first lap of the race that last time around. He is still on his way for maximum points as it stands. We continue to watch Lewis Dufour. This is actually his first outing in the championship. He joined us last season, also in a Cooper, but couldn't make any of the first 2 rounds of the series, and joins us for round 3. He's putting on a great performance so far as Santini's in the wall again. Santini again makes the same mistake. And, and I think he has got damage this time. Yes, look at that. Santini, he has hanging steering as he heads down the straight. Matteo Santini in real trouble here. And he's in the wall. No, come on, save it. No, he is in the wall again. Matteo Santini has lost it. He's lost control of the car, and he's going to lose his podium position in all of that. I mean, continues to clatter against the wall. He needs to drive slower than this if he's going to get back to the pit lane. He's going to be kicking himself with that one because he had second place pretty much in the bag. And I'm afraid he's lost control of the car and stuffed it. And yeah, that's a huge mistake from Matteo Santini. 5th place at the minute. That puts Lewis Dufour up into 2nd, Tim Muttram into 3rd, and Fabrizio Ferrante up into 4th position. And yeah, what a massive shame there for Matteo Santini. Next person to pass him is going to be Phil Brown, who was running 2nd in the championship after the first round of the series, finished 2nd at Riverside, and unfortunately retired from the race at Thompson Road. He was our first retirement there, and is now under attack from Steph Williams, who I've been mistakenly calling Andrew Williams so far. Apologies about that. MK3427, 24, sorry. I don't know why I'm sure your name ends in 7, because it doesn't. Says, avoid the grass at all costs. It pulls you in, and I hope that you can. I hope that. He also says, I hope that Santini can get the damage fixed. Steering bent, suspension damaged. Yeah, it was a huge shame. And also, good luck for your race at the Nordschleife, MK. Lewis Dufour sets the fastest lap in the race. So now that Dufour doesn't have that Cooper of Santini in front of him, he's suddenly launched a charge. And yeah, Lewis Dufour, fastest lap of the race so far. Meanwhile, Santini's being passed by Brown, and Santini really couldn't have done anything else about that because he is entering the pit lane. Through as well goes Steph Williams into 6th place, and we've lost Laurent Lons, and that's a big shame because Lons was one of the fastest drivers in qualifying, and unfortunately we saw him having that incident earlier with Phil Brown on the opening lap of the race, and unfortunately has ended up losing out in all of that and dropping to 11th place, which is where he will be classified, and that's a huge shame for Laurent Lons. Let's watch with Tim Muttram. In fact, let's ride on board with the yeah, this feels the most realistic. Let's ride on board with the excellent sounding Honda. Very fizzy. I always describe this car as sounding fizzy, but indeed it is. He's just passed the part on the course where Santini went off, and look at how he drifts the car sideways. I always love watching Tim Muttram. I say this every time I watch him drive, but just his driving style. Look at this. He steers. I mean, with the exception of that last corner, he steers out of the corners more than he steers into them. Just a masterclass of car control. Currently our championship leader. He's finished on the podium at both events so far. Took pole position and the win at Riverside. And It was a dominant performance at Riverside as well, won it by 7 seconds. And fought Matteo Santini for the win at Thompson Road before having to drop back and finishing second. Oh, look at that through the hairpin! Yikes, my word! And that is how they did it in the 60s, and that is how Tim Muttram does it now. Just brilliant. I'm just trying to research actually what type of engine this Honda had, because just listen to that as he kicks it out. Just absolutely fantastic. The Honda, incidentally, had a V12. It was a 3-litre V12, much like the one in the Eagle. But the difference is, I'm pretty sure, and I'm just going to double check this, I'm pretty sure that it was turbocharged. Naturally aspirated, ignore me. Yeah, naturally aspirated. It's a weird sounding naturally aspirated engine, but I mean, I'm glad about that. Fantastic sound, and it spits flames as it heads over the hill. Here's Phil Brown, currently running in 5th position, hoping to regain some points after his disappointment at Thompson Road. Continues on his way. He will, at this rate, be gaining some points over his main championship rival, John van der Geest, who's currently 5th in the championship and 8th in the race, currently outside of the points, as points go down to 6th position, with the exception of pole position and fastest lap. And John van der Geest is in the pits, so we've had an issue for John van der Geest in 8th position there, and he's had to evacuate to the pits. That's a shame. Santini goes back up into 8th position as a result. And we didn't see what happened to Van der Geest. Unfortunately, we don't have replays. But there he is, parked in the pit lane. My apologies. And Phil Brown is a driver who's raced with us in a couple of series here at SimRacingOnline. He did a couple of rounds of the Audi TT Cup, and also the last series of the F1 Classic Series, finished 5th in that. He did Ginetta Super Cup 2017, he did the RSS GT1 Series, and he did the Mazda MX-5 Cup UK, yet to win a race with SimRacingOnline, but he has a couple of podiums, scored a couple in the last F1 Classic Series. He's a quick driver, and I can't imagine it's going to be that long before he scores his first win with us. Meanwhile, Ferrante has caught right up to the back of Tim Muttram, so Ferrante's been flying, and has indeed been catching up towards Tim Muttram for that 3rd position and the final podium place in this race. And Fabrizio Ferrante is currently the 2nd place Cooper. A lot of drivers were saying that the Cooper was going to be the fastest car here today, and indeed that does appear to be the case, with the exception of Yucca Drugs Lotus 49, but you know, I think that's mainly down to Yucca just being an utterly phenomenal driver. We saw that last season, of course, reigning champion of the F1 Classic Series. He won it last series with a 100% winning record. Entered 6 races, won all of them. Of course, there were 7 races in the championship. Didn't win the 7th one because he didn't race it. But anyway, ended up winning the championship anyway, with a fantastic performance. Through the one of the many fast sweeping left-handers, and even faster sweeping right-handers. That's a bank corner there. It's like something you'd see on the Isle of Man TT. quite a wide section of track, but I tell you what, it won't feel like that. Tony Talviti is not happy after his retirement near the start of the race. He's posted on the forum, "When you make a mistake, you move to driving line to the corner when the whole grid is approaching fast and you're moving slowly. And when you spin, you let your car roll forwards to the road when the whole field is approaching fast." I detect high levels of sarcasm in that, but obviously Talviti's not happy with someone. And I didn't see who he wasn't happy with, didn't quite see who was involved in the incident with him, but he's not happy at someone. I'm afraid we've also lost Max Shepard from this race, so 9 cars remaining from our 12 starters, and that's a shame. And, and Mac is joining us in the YouTube chat. Hi there, Mac. Sorry to see that you've retired from this race. He says, the ballast has made the Cooper far too good, in my opinion. The Coopers definitely appear very, very fast. They were 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th in qualifying. Only stopped from a perfect streak by Yucca Drugs. Lotus. Oh, Muttrum's made a mistake. Muttrum there went wide and through. Went Fabrizio Ferranti into 3rd position. And that's an uncharacteristic mistake from Tim Muttrum there. I'm going to have a look on the YouTube stream, the delayed stream, to see if I can spot exactly what happened there to Tim Muttrum. He probably just misjudged the corner and allowed Ferrante up his inside. But yeah, whatever the case, losing out, indeed. Oh, he kicked the car very, very sideways, and it looks as if it just didn't slow. Maybe had a bit of a twitch mid-corner. And through into 3rd place goes Fabrizio Ferranti in the Cooper. So, with just under 20 minutes remaining, it's Drug from DeFore, from Ferrante, Muttrum, Brown, Williams, Tudal, Santini, and Van der Geest. The 9 drivers remaining in this race. MK3424 says, the Honda sounds different because of the exhaust manifold and the engine of the cylinder banks. Okay, thank you very much for that information. That's actually really interesting. No turbo, only 1.6 turbocharged allowed. Yes, very much so. That's why the Matra that isn't being taken by anyone has such a small engine. It's because if you want a turbocharged engine, it has to be a 1.6. Thank you for that. Yeah. Too bad this was Cooper's last year in Formula 1. Tim Muttrum going around the outside of Fabrizio Ferrante. Didn't see that happening, sorry. It was out of the corner of my eye, but he's had the slipstream. And he's going very, very wide, trying to make it stick, nearly putting a wheel onto the grass. And Ferrante says, well, if you want to get around me, you're going to have to go the long way round. Very good defense there from Fabrizio Ferrante. And it was indeed Cooper's last year in Formula 1. The car, or the manufacturer, sorry, that won the championship in both 59 and 60 with their wonderful T51 and T53. Incidentally, apparently their final Grand Prix was actually 1969, although that was probably a privateer. Unless I'm wrong. Yeah, indeed, it was a privateer Cooper entered in 1969 for the... which race would that have been? The Monaco Grand Prix. Finished 6 laps down, so obviously it was quite outdated by that point. But anyway, Cooper in their time in Formula 1 did a fantastic job. They were almost legendary, really, for their time. Definitely the top team in the late 50s and early 60s. Max Shepard says the Cooper is a rocket ship, a rocket ship in a straight line, and also great in corners. Now that you can edit the setup, and he's calling for a BOP ballast readjustment. I'm sure that's going to be looked into by the organisers, but whatever the case, it's getting closer for the lead. Yucca Drug now less than a second ahead of Lewis DeFore, and DeFore has been putting in some blistering lap times the last couple of times around. Meanwhile, Muttrum's got third again. Muttrum has managed to pull a move on Ferrante. Sorry that I didn't catch that. But Tim Muttrum has gone back up into third position ahead of Fabrizio Ferrante. This fight is one that's very much not done yet and could go the whole way. Ferrante holding on to the tail of Tim Muttrum's Honda. Through the long right-hander, and he's up his inside. And it looks as if Ferrante's going to get that back again. Is the Honda still there? They are still side by side. Through the camera view, neck and neck, and it's Ferrante who comes out on top. Ferrante just with the extra bravery, and I tell you what, that took guts, but he's made it stick. Done fantastically, well done. MK also says, also points out that the Cooper T51 was the first F1 car with a rear-mounted engine to win the championship. Indeed it was. That was in 1959, and I did a school assembly on that at one point. Interestingly enough, I have a cardboard cutout of the car on my bedroom wall. 59, sorry. Yeah. But anyway, I have a cardboard cutout of that car on my wall. You weren't entirely wrong in saying 58, because that was the year where a rear-engine car won a Grand Prix for the first time. That would have been I believe it would have been a Rob Walker-entered Lotus at the 59 Argentine Grand Prix, off the top of my head. Let me check that. If I got that right, I'm going to be so proud of myself. Just going to double-check that. You know what? I think it was. Oh, it was a Cooper! Okay, so I got all the facts right except for the manufacturer. Sorry, goodness me. Yeah, that was the first time that a rear-engine car had won a race. However, it didn't win a championship until much later on. And that would have been, I think, a T53 or a T45 that won that race for Rob Walker Racing Team with Sterling Moss. To be honest, Moss could well have won the championship that year if he'd stayed with that car. Whatever the case, we're getting close for the lead now. And that, oh sorry, that's for third place. Ferrante and Muttrum going side by side again, and Muttrum blasts his way past Ferrante up towards the crest. What can Ferrante do about getting back at him? Good performance from Tim Muttrum. He's got it for now. Meanwhile, I also want to keep an eye on these leaders, because that is something that's definitely not over yet either. Incidentally, the reason that Sterling Moss didn't stay with the Rob Walker Racing Cooper, whoa, as DeFore gets very heavily in the grass there. That was close. Sorry about that. Yeah, whatever the case, the reason he didn't stay with them was because he went to Vanwall, who ended up winning the Constructors' Championship, the very first Constructors' Championship in '58. But probably, I'd say, possibly could well have won the championship in the Cooper if he'd stuck with it. Then again, the Vanwall did outperform the Cooper when Moss went to Vanwall, so it's very tricky to, very tough to tell. Ended up losing the championship by 1 point that year, did Sterling Moss. Only due to drop scores though, Mike Hawthorne did have a much more consistent season. Whatever the case, we're getting off topic, because we still have two ferocious fights going on near the front of the order here. DeFore on Drug for the lead, and Ferrante on Muttram for third. And you don't quite know where to look when it's all kicking off like this. It's great to see, but a little bit annoying to commentate. DeFore would be much closer than to Drug than he is now if he hadn't dipped wheels in the grass earlier on this lap. May well have been able to have a look by now, but for now just needs to stick in behind Drug and possibly attack him as they head onto the faster part of the course with the slipstream. Here we go, up the hill. And he's going to be a little bit too far back for the slipstream towards turn 1 here. Actually pulls out of it to the inside, that's curious. .6 of a second separating the two of them. This is the lead fight with less than 10 minutes to go. Let's have a look at the order. So, Jacke Drug leads in the Lotus 49, followed by Lewis DeFore in the Cooper T81B. Tim Muttram is third in the Honda RA300, followed by Fabrizio Ferrante, and then Phil Brown. Steph Williams is the next Lotus in 6th place. Steen Toodle has the only Brabham BT24, and he is just outside of the points paying positions as at present. Matteo Santini is in 8th position, and John Van der Geest in the only remaining Eagle T1G is running in 9th position. So that's the order as it stands. But the lead fight is certainly not over yet. Certainly not over. Andrew Williams says, how do you people know all of these stats? I struggle to remember who won the F1 race 2 weeks ago. Practice, and I am pretty obsessed with Formula 1, especially classic Formula 1, so I've watched a lot of documentaries and researched a lot of facts. It's just something that I do as a hobby, and yeah, I always like speaking to older people who either were there or have been around for a lot longer than me as well, and who can teach me even more about, who I can have a nice conversation with about things like that. Yeah, MK3424 says, you better know a bit of the cars that you're driving in the race sim. Indeed, yeah. You have to have a bit of knowledge about the cars to know how they drove them back then, and how they demand to be handled. Also, it's nice to know a bit about the cars anyway, just to know. Hello as well to Mark Hightree, sorry. He says, great racing, nice drifting, streaming is smooth, and first time I've seen this track. Yeah, thank you, Mark, sorry. glad you could join us, and glad you're enjoying us. We have an excellent lead scrap on our hands in the final 7 minutes of this race, and yeah, it's fantastic that that you've been able to join us. MK says, best and fastest way to go through a corner, four-wheel drifting. Indeed, we've seen that from so many drivers, especially Tim Muttram. Forward drifting. I always compare these cars to buggies. They're more like buggies than single-seaters. You know, before the slicks and wings came in, it was very much like buggy racing. You used to very much kick them out sideways. Formula 1 back then was very, very different to how it is today. I would say that Formula 1 became sort of the basis for what it is today around about the year 1970 or 71, when we had proper aerodynamics that were built into the car rather than just stuck on stilts. And yeah, I think that was really when we started to get cars as we know them today. Of course, slicks came in for the first time in 1969, I think. I remember a story from Mario Andretti, actually, that I was reading a while ago, when he took his first ever pole position in '69, where he said that there was a sweet spot that they found where the tyres were worn enough so that they were slick, and also not grained enough that they were losing time, and the cars would actually go faster on worn tyres. So that was when they started developing slicks, which were introduced later in the '69 season and used thoroughly throughout the '70s, I think. '71 was the full-fledged introduction of slicks, according to MK. Thank you very much for that information. Oh, DeFore getting very heavily over the grass again. That was a bit hairy there. Louis DeFore, goodness me, kicking up the dirt and just about managing to keep control of it. Nicely done. Nice little anecdote from MK there, saying how he raced a 1950s F1 car. And actually drove with a wooden wheel to get the right feel of it. That's fantastic. I really like the idea of that, actually. Oh my goodness. That does sound fantastic. Wow. I'd love to give that a go at some point, actually, if I had a wooden sim racing wheel. But whatever the case, Louis DeFore getting very sideways through the kink. But then again, I'm not sure why I point that out every time now, because if you look at every single corner, that's just how you drive these cars. They spit flames and they drive sideways. That's how they roll. Another lap completed, and we're heading on to the final lap of the race now. Final lap and the last chance that Louis DeFore is going to get of attacking Yucca Drug. It's a lead fight on the last lap of the race, and this is going to come down to the wire between the top two. All that Drug needs to make is a slight mistake, and Louis DeFore will have an opportunity to blast past him into the lead of the race. This is very, very tense, and I tell you what, Yucca will be absolutely on the edge of his seat. He just needs to remain calm. Stay calm, Yucca, and you've got this. 1.5 seconds is the gap. But the problem is, when you have a gap like this on the final lap of the race, that's when your mind starts to think about the trophy and think about the victory, and you can't let yourself lose concentration. It's something that's happened to me a couple of times. Meanwhile, I noticed in terms of the gap, it came right out to almost 2.5 seconds, and now it's coming down again. and I didn't notice anything in particular that happened, so that's interesting. Maybe Drug started to pull away and then possibly dipped a wheel in the grass or something. He's starting to pull away again now. 2 seconds the gap. Meanwhile, we also have a fight for the last points paying position. Williams and Santini getting very close. Let's have a quick look at that. Williams and Santini indeed getting close for 6th position. And that's important because that is the last point. Disregarding fastest lap, that is. Mark Hytree says pushing the limits. Indeed they are. Of this 6.2 mile Deutschlandring. And as we come towards the end of the lap, I want to have one last look up to the head of the field. Yucca Drug leading by 1.7 seconds now from Lewis de Vore. Lotus from Cooper. Just a couple of corners to go now, and then a straight, and Santini's got Williams. Santini is and Williams... Oh, he's slowing. He's got heavy damage. Williams, heavy damage, and he's going to lose 7th to Toodle. In fact, he's going to lose the car. That's a big shame for Williams on the last lap of the race, who appears to have crashed out. Back up to the lead, though. Yucca Drug is now on the straight and narrow. I don't think he's going to have to touch the brakes again in this race. Yucca Drug up the hill. It's going to be so close at the end here. De Vore is catching. There's less than 0.6 of a second between them. I don't think he's going to have enough. Yucca Drug wins the race in the Lotus 49. Fantastic. 0.613 is the gap for the lead of the race on the final lap. Yucca Drug wins from De Vore. Fantastic victory. Let's have a look back to 3rd place. Tim Muttram is going to be 3rd. And I'm not sure how that's going to affect the championship. I'm going to have to work that out. Across the line comes Tim Muttram in 3rd place, followed by Fabrizio Ferrante 4th. Phil Brown is going to be 5th. Let's watch him as he finishes that lap. And I'm quickly going to have a look at the championship standings to see how that's going to affect things. So, as I just get the championship list up, let's just continue to watch Phil Brown as he finishes in 5th position and claims 2 points. Nicely done. Muttram was leading Drug by 7 points. Drug is going to claim 11 points, and Muttram is going to claim... Now, what's 3rd? 3rd is 4 points, meaning that is a gap, as Santini is about to finish 4th place. That's a gap of 7 points, meaning they're going to be dead equal. Oh my goodness. Wow. Drug and Muttram dead equal on points. Santini's going to lose out quite a bit, I'm afraid, because he was 2nd in the championship and only finished 6th in the race. Toodle finishes 7th. Williams is 8th. Our last finisher is going to be John van der Geest in 9th position. Let's all cheer him home as he comes through in the Eagle. But yeah, the championship leaders dead equal on 1 win apiece. And 20 points apiece, I believe. That is providing Yucca Drug scored the fastest lap, and I believe he did. I'll double check that for you after this race, but I believe that Drug scored fastest lap. Here comes Van der Geest in the Eagle. A disappointing race for him. But at least he finished, and I hope he had fun. There he goes, across the line. So, final order: Drug, De Vore, Muttram, Ferrante, Brown, Santini, Toodle, Williams, Van der Geest, and 3 retirements in Shepherd, Lons, and Talviti. And the fastest lap of the race, it was... Oh, it wasn't Drug. In fact, it was Lewis de Vore. So that no, it wasn't. Matteo Santini. So that means that the first lap point will not go the way of Yucca Drug, and heading into the next round, Tim Muttram will be leading the championship by 1 point. My goodness, this is going to be close. Apologies for the black screen, but we are at the end of the broadcast here today, And that is going to be it from us here at SimRacingOnline. Thank you to everyone for joining in. MK says, exhilarating last lap. Indeed it was, and an exhilarating race as well that came right down to the wire. And thank you for tuning into it as well. And thank you to everyone else who tuned in. Thank you to all of the drivers for putting on such a good show. Hope you all enjoyed it. I'm sure you did. And we will see you all in 1 week's time at Bridgehampton. See you then, and good night.